This song hit the top 10 in America in 1980, and it sounded like it was eons ahead of its time. I mean, it came on pop radio when Kenny Rogers and Christopher Cross and Olivia Newton-John were the norm. And this song sounded like it came from Mars. It was the instigator of new wave, of dark wave, synth wave, industrial music, electronica, EDM, all of it. The singer and the creator was a pioneer. He even looked and sounded like an android. It was awesome. It was a song that came from road rage. Up next, the actual pioneer tells us the first-hand account of creating a song that defined the 80s and a video that defined MTV even before MTV existed. It's coming up next on Professor of Rock. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you remember creating greeting cards on Print Shop back in the day when computers were young, you're going to dig this channel. Nostalgia all the time. Make sure that you subscribe below right now, click the bell, all that stuff. It's the stories from the legends. And we also have a Patreon you're going to want to check out. There you'll find an additional catalog of exclusive content, and you can even become an honorary producer every day on this channel to help us curate this music history. So it's time for another edition of our series, Bottle Lightning. This is where we celebrate a song or an album that was king for a day or for many days. Here we honor artists and bands that rocketed up the charts, but for reasons sometimes unknown, they never had another big hit. Called by many as one-hit wonders, we celebrate them instead as lightning in a bottle. Today, we discuss a truly monumental song with a pioneering artist who should have had so many hits. It's actually something I've contemplated many times in my life. Gary Numan is a genius. So why did he only have one hit? I mean, it makes no sense. I think it maybe was that he was too far ahead of his time. He was never following trends. He was creating the blueprint that several genres followed thereafter. I mean, his stuff is so ethereal, so cool, especially Cars, his number 9 hit from 1980. It was released in 1979, and it seemed to be from another planet entirely. It was so out of place with the light, smooth, and easy sounds of 79 and 80 pop radio. Some called a lot of this music yacht rock. And if Christopher Cross and Michael McDonald's Doobie Brothers were what some were listening to while chilling on their yachts, then Gary Numan was what one might listen to on a flying saucer. I mean, it was strange, it was compelling and atmospheric. And the song was written and recorded in just a half hour after an incident of road rage. I'll let Gary tell you the rest in our exclusive interview coming up next. Now, as we go into this interview, I do want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear. At Zenni.com, you can choose from the latest frames and styles, whether you wear prescriptions, non-prescription glasses, or even sunglasses. And you can add amazing features like blue blocks to protect your eyes from digital blue light. Take a look at Zenni.com. Here's Gary with Cars. The automobile song, right, has always been big in rock and roll. But this isn't your typical Beach Boys, I Get Around car song.
No.
It's not a joyride. It was really this was like a cocoon,
Yes.
The way you wrote it. A getaway or like a tank to get away from the real world.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I was driving along and some people in front obviously really upset with me. So I've always assumed I must have done something and not realised, back up the road somewhere and upset them in some way. Anyway, they got out of their car and they're screaming and shouting at me and then they're trying to open my door and I'm locking my doors, stay in the car. And then they're trying to break them in ears. It's all in traffic, right in front of hundreds
It's
of
road
people.
rage.
Yeah. It's serious, And I thought, there's no way I'm getting out of this. I'm going to get hammered. Anyway, I ended up driving up onto the pavement, actually, drove along the pavement, sort of people were leaping out of the way a little bit, and off the end of that and away. And so that's the experience that it come from. And it made me realise, again, part of my Asperger's and being uncomfortable around people, that the car for me was like a little mini tank for the civilian. When you're in it, you're separate from the world. You're safe. You can lock yourself in. You can drive away. You can get away from problems. It's just a fantastically comforting thing, and that's where the song came from. But the song itself, I actually don't know how many songs I've written. 300, 400 on album. I've written thousands more than that, but actually released.
They've been released,
and only 2 of them are written on bass guitar. Cars is one of them. So this is kind of electronic classic, as it were, was written on bass guitar, not even on a keyboard. So, but it was really quick. I'd been to London to buy this bass guitar, I think called a Shergold modulator, which I still have, and got home, and it was the very first thing I played. I picked it up at the case, put it on my lap, and I went doo 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 doo, and I thought, well, that sounds all right. And then doo 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 doo, and the second thing I played was that. I mean, it wrote itself. It was the whole music, everything, all the parts, the groove parts at least, not the strings that came later, and the structure of it, 10 minutes at the most. And the lyric was, I don't know, 20 minutes, and the whole thing was done in half an hour. Took a bit longer to record it and the other bits, but that was like a day or something.
I love it.
It's really quick.
Well, and the bass line, it follows exactly what you're seeing in the melody line.
Yeah.
That's a rare thing in music. Such a distinct sound, that bass, to have it led by that.
I did a couple of albums later. Did one called Dance and one called Assassin, 81 and 82, and they both had the bass guitar as a lead melody instrument rather than just underpinning underneath it. The 82 album, I Assassin especially, the bass player on that called Pino Palladino, still around. He's amazing. And his playing was so special that I thought you didn't want it rumbling away in the background. It needed to be much more prominent, so that gave those albums a different slant.
And I think what works really well is the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
But also, again, the way that you approach it from Cars. I mean, if you think about like Born to be Wild, I Get Around, some of these songs that they wrote about being out on the road, or Born to Run, Bruce Springsteen. They're always about the car being the escape and look what I was talked about. But Cars was like this really, it was kind of scary in a way. There was a real atmosphere to it.
You come up with a groove that works really, really well. You've got a subject matter which is slightly unusual, and you want to try and find music that will work with that. So the layers that you put onto the groove itself are quite important. So I wanted it to be sort of exciting and have pace the way that you would with a car. But beyond that, I didn't think that much about it. There's a friend of mine who's a really, really famous record producer now. And we had a conversation a few years ago. He was talking about Cars and saying that the way it started, where it just holds just one note, this high string. He was saying that was genius. That he said, who would have thought to just hold? So I had to confess that I was not genius at all. I actually pressed the key down to start and then couldn't think what to do. So I just left it.
So you just left it?
Yeah, so just until I could think, same note. I know that that run wasn't actually meant to be a line. That was just me giving up.
Wow.
I thought, that works. So I go back, and I think sometimes the word genius is handed out way too quickly.
Yeah.
Because it's not genius, it's an accident.
It's a happy accident.
Yeah.
But the wobbly part, and you hear that come on the radio, you always know what the song is. And then the drum part, I love how the drum part comes in, and then it's the synth that you're talking about. You stop singing and you go into that near, 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 near for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, that closes out the song. That's a long time to be an instrumental.
Yeah, it's only vocal for I think the first 60 seconds, and then it's instrumental after that.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare to do on television. You sing and you got nothing to do for another 2 minutes. Just stand there and try and look interesting.
I want to ask you about the video really quick, because that's another one. Did you know, because this was before MTV when you had done this, did you see that things were maybe going to go that way?
Yeah, oh, massively, yeah. The use of video and being able to control the visual aspect of what people saw, again, was a reaction in a way, or something I learned from Top of the Pops. You know, the Top of the Pops was the one program in Britain that launched everybody.
Welcome to Top of the Pops.
A quarter of the country watched it.
Oh yeah.
And on the influence, if you like, of British music around the world is huge. Was more so then even. So that one program was incredibly important. But you were kind of at the mercy of the people there. You know, when I did Our Friends Electric the first time, I was surprised at how agreeable they were to some of the changes I wanted to make. I didn't want any coloured lights, for example. I said, look, everyone, I've been watching your program for years, and you just have loads of lights all flashing on all the time. I said, I just don't want white light, just white. I don't want it coming from below me. I want it coming up, so it's all angles and silhouettes and things like that. And they agreed to it. I thought they'd just tell me to shut up, you know. So, you know, you just, a couple of little things, but it made you stand out. I was still aware of how you were tied to what the set that they gave you, the angles that they gave, the limitations of that particular show were obvious. And I wanted to try to find things that would be what I wanted. Look the way I wanted to look, the angles that I wanted to be seen, the lighting that I wanted.
Because your music plays individual so much.
Yeah.
Very cinematic and atmospheric. It's interesting with Cars, the video, because it came before MTV, but yet when they talk about the birth of MTV, they always show that video or that song as part of that. You look at the top 10 songs of 1980 in America, even though Cars went to number 9, it was the 12th biggest song of the year because it spent so much time on the charts. But Cars was number 1 in Canada, number 1 in the UK, top 10 in Australia, Ireland. It was massive. You look at the top 10 charts in 1980, you got like Kenny Rogers, and you've got Captain and Tennille, and you've got Olivia and Newton-John. I'm not taking anything away from those artists, but that was the prelude to New Wave. The only thing that is even within striking distance is Blondie, Call Me, and that's still a pretty pop song. Cars was just like revolutionary. Were you surprised it was a hit?
Cars, no. And I don't mean to be big-headed,
Okay.
but Our Friends Electric was on before it, and that'd been number 1 for 4 weeks. So then you think you've probably got a pretty good shot with Cars.
The other thing is it's recharted a couple of times as well, you know, in subsequent decades. But the covers for that, Fear Factory, Cool G Rap and DJ Polo, Courtney Love, Hole, they've done it a couple of times. They do it live, Cars.
Did they? I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Also, Beavis and Butthead and Family Guy.
Get some ice cream in his car. Oh, you're a poor sport.
The Muppets. Simpsons.
Here in my car, I am holding a flood.
And the ads on Nissan and Oldsmobile. And then my favorite is when you did the Die Hard batteries.
Yeah, that was great.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was really cool.
What do you think when it's used in all these things? I mean, that must just give you a little bit of a rush when it's used in TV and movie and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's busier now in terms of syncs and so on. I've got a big one yesterday morning, funny enough. It's busier now than it was when it came out. For a long time, I tried to distance myself from it, and our friends Electric actually, because they felt as if they became an ankle chain or a cloud over you that you couldn't get out from under this, what they had done. And so I was, and it is pretty childish really, because most people would give their mum away to have written something that was that successful. But I didn't have a good relationship with it, and I started to resent it a lot. You know, you go on the radio and they play Cars when you arrived and our friends Electric when you left, and not play the thing you'd gone there to talk about, the new stuff. And it just felt as if it was becoming a barrier to moving forward, and I'm absolutely obsessed about keep moving. I genuinely believe that you should earn longevity.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be given it because you wrote something good in 1979. You should earn it every single year. It was particularly upsetting to me to feel tied to an era that you had moved along away from decades
Almost
before.
40 years.
Yeah. But then I did a thing in 2009 with 9 Inch Nails in London. I was waiting to go on. They were doing O2 Arena, this huge place, and Trent had invited me along to sing metal. When we got this, oh, we'd do Cars as well. Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, God. Oh, not happy. But I tried to talk him out a bit, but he wouldn't have it. So we're going to do metal and Cars. But when he introduced me, I'm waiting at the side of the stage to go on. I'm pretty nervous actually. And he started to talk about Cars, the Pleasure Principle album specifically that it came from. And he was saying all this stuff about how important it was and how what I was doing then shaped the direction that he took 9 Inch Nails in, and all this stuff I hadn't heard, and it was amazing to hear. You know, imagine that I think he's a genius.
Oh yeah.
You got someone like that saying all this stuff in front of 20,000 people, whatever it was, and I'm going, whoa, that's unbelievable. You know, and I remember thinking, how childish have I been? You know, if he thinks that about that stuff, you know, with all of his talent and all what he's done for music, you know, how babyish have I been to be sort of trying to keep it at arm's length and ignore it?
I mean, it's this song that's transcended generations. This classic song. We're talking about you kicked open doors that now people are walking through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey, leave us a comment about this incredible synth pioneer, Gary Numan, and his masterpiece Cars. What are your memories of the music video and the song, the first time you heard it? Why do you think he never had another hit? Let's have a great discussion. If you dig our content, make sure to subscribe below so you never miss out on our videos. We'd love to have you as part of this community. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.